thank you for joining me today so that we can celebrate your work as a colleague and as someone who's already dedicated so much of her life to young children, especially babies and toddlers, in a way that so many people here at 0 to 3 have not. You have literally dedicated your career to being with and supporting the healthy social, emotional, cognitive, language and literacy, physical, and all other areas of development for our babies. And so thank you. And today is about raising you up and celebrating you in relation to your heritage as an Asian American Pacific Islander. And I'm not even sure I'm saying that right. So you should feel free to correct me if there's a better way. How should I be referencing your heritage for you today?
I'm Filipino. I was born in the Philippines and I do identify as Asian.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's I shared a few questions with you. So can you start by telling me about your work, early childhood work, like beyond 0 to 3, but include your work here at 0 to 3. And as you talk about it, if you see opportunities, how does your experiences as a female early childhood professional who is Asian um, influence or inform your work?
Yeah. So I started my early childhood career as an infant and toddler educator. I primarily worked in college or university-based centers. So I had the privilege of working with very diverse groups of families because they were coming into the country to do their doctorates and their masters. So I had the opportunity to work with a plethora of families and family structures. I think my work in the classrooms with young children, early childhood is a female-driven, female-dominated field, but being of Asian descent, being Asian myself, I think it supported those connections that I built with young children who saw me and I look like their mom or I look like their aunt or their sister. And even for other BIPOC children, when they would see me and they would notice that my hair is dark, just like their hair is dark, or my my the color of my skin is very similar to theirs. They resonate and they build those connections with me, and it's a way for us to represent them and create that safe space for them. And that kind of brought me to 0 to 3 and the work that 0 to 3 has done in supporting families and young children. I've used the 0 to 3 resources when I was an educator. So it's been a full circle moment to be on the other side now, providing those resources to other fellow educators. But I always say, once you're an educator, an early childhood educator, you always identify as an early childhood educator. It's a badge of honor that I carry with me. And when people ask me what my job is now, even though that's not in my title, I still say early childhood educator or educator of other adults who work with young children. So that's still something that I carry with me. So from the classroom, I worked then with student teachers, being a mentor educator, and then that brought me to teaching a couple of community college courses, to being a quality improvement coach, and then now providing PD as an expert faculty for 0 to 3.
Cool. It's amazing. It's not one of my questions, but I just have to ask, when you're in the classroom and you're working with the babies and the toddlers, do they notice, like, tell us more about how you look um, and how they look. Do they notice the similarities there?
I think they do. I mean, I remember there was an instance before where I had a little girl. I still remember her name, Annie. She was new to the classroom. She is of Asian descent as well. She is Chinese. And I just remember I worked with a partner who had blonde hair. And I remember her holding my face with her hands and then running her fingers to my hair and then touching her hair and kind of noticing that it had the same texture, the same color. And then you can kind of see her, she was still crying at that time because she was having separation anxiety, but you can kind of see her making those connections like, oh, okay, you kind of look familiar, but you're not mom.
Yeah.
But there's something similar here. And sure enough, she became my primary. I was her primary caregiver from then on because we kind of had that moment. We had that connection. So I think even the littles notice that, especially I actually even think especially infants because we hold them so close and all they have is kind of looking at our faces and looking at those things that make us similar to them.
Yeah. There was a great, I think I saw it on Facebook, but a great clip of Beyonce's song about beautiful young women or girls who were black with dark skin. And there's the split screen. Have you seen it of the little girl who's watching it? And she's touching her hair in a way like as she's watching the video. And you're reminding me of that. And you could see that little girl's face light up with like recognition, like I'm like her, I'm beautiful. And so that makes me think about your interaction. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful gift. More that we need more of for our children. Um, so I'm guessing from what you're telling me. So if you want to talk a little bit more, and sorry, my email's still going here, but in the background. But has this work that you've done in early childhood provided you with an opportunity to promote diversity and equity and inclusion in the field? And are there highlights of how that you want to share?
Yeah, I think as a person of color, as a woman of Asian descent, I've just my role as expert faculty, I deliver trainings nationwide. And I think to represent my heritage and to represent my culture as well, I bring that in every training. We have an opportunity to, in the trainings that we provide here at 0 to 3, where we talk about the diversity informed tenets, and we talk about how deeply personal infant and toddler care is, and a lot of it, those infant and early childhood mental health kind of philosophies of how you are cared for comes out in how you care for others. And a lot of that is culturally driven. And I think just being someone quote unquote different to represent that other side, be the person that their trainers of color, see as well and kind of relate to. And I'm also an English as a second language speaker. So to be able to share what that experience is like for me and learning a second language as a young child and those first 5 years and being able to give myself as an example of a dual or a multi-language learner and giving my family as an example for that, I feel helps promote that inclusion and helps kind of show not only other professionals, but also, other educators that there are other opportunities out there beyond the classroom and how you support young children can be in so many different ways. You can be working directly with them, providing those safe spaces, or you can provide these trainings or models or examples. I feel like my journey or I started my career and where I am now, it kind of gives an example of that. So I feel like that's a way of showing that inclusion. I also Vice President Harris's comment or what the quote from her mother of you can't be the last one to walk through that door. I believe that too, of pulling other Asians, other Filipinos who may want that opportunity to have the professional experiences that I've had. I love that. I love being able to do that for others too.
It's fantastic. That's why we love having you here. The last question you touched on a little bit already. It's about how you feel about the critical competencies and that how they promote the model and the curriculum promotes the diversity and equity in the field. Is there anything you'd want to add about that?
So when I started at 0 to 3, the first task or my first role was to support in the delivery and the development of the critical competencies for infant and toddler educators. And that resonated with me in two different areas. It resonated with me because as an early childhood educator, it was like, yes, finally, something for infant and toddler educators that is ours, that's specific to the work that we do, the nuances, the special strategies. Maybe that's not even the right word, but just those individualized strategies that we have for supporting the very little, the infants and the toddlers in the classroom or in early learning environments. And then it also resonated with me because there is a specific section of the critical competencies called Focus on Additional Considerations, which highlight dual and multi-language learners, which highlights, one of the modules is about behavior, and one of the competencies even includes how do we meet or how do we understand children's behaviors when they're culturally different from there's a difference in culture of the home versus culture of the early learning environment, and how do we respect that, and how do we honor that, and how do we not mislabel it as a misbehavior or a behavior. And then again, those competencies that focus on supporting dual and multi-language learners, I mean, those are so important, not only because research says it helps support brain development in young children, but there's so much cultural healing that happens to that. Not so long ago, generations were told, don't speak another language. You're in America now, speak English. And to read something that researchers are now saying, no, we actually want you to speak your home language. We want you to be dual or multi-language learners because we've now learned that that actually supports brain growth and development. I think it goes deeper than just science. It's healing. It's making amends for those missed opportunities and creating those spaces that is truly inclusive.
That's really powerful, and I know I've heard you speak about that in our trainings together, and I think it does help all of us recognize how truly harmful white supremacy, white privilege has been, and for people of color, and the immediate impact on babies and toddlers from their first year where language is being developed to be denied that historically and in many places still today is just such a terrible thing to be doing to children and families. So I am glad you raised that for the critical competencies, and you raised it for me, and I'll remember that too as I keep going forward. So thank you.
Thank you.